Hello.
Good
Oh,
evening.
I guess we started on the wrong thing. Hold on one
It's
second.
all good.
Let's let people get in here.
It's all good.
And what are we going to be
Mm-mm,
talking about tonight?
mm-mm. So recap what we talked about Tuesday, being coming straight out of Oz. I know a lot of the examples that I shared related to all of us being Dorothy, the different age groups, what are some of the challenges and how to get out of it. A lot of those examples, I really did not spend any time kind of detailing the how. I just kind of highlighted what some of the tools could be, some of the tools that could be used to be able to, achieve goals, make the boat go faster. What I wanted to do today was kind of get a little bit more specific, use the same Dorothy details, but actually specifically look at some math and kind of highlight what could actually be done. Because at the end of the day, we are all Dorothy, right?
Yeah, I like that. Dorothy details. I have a question for everyone who's watching. One, thank you so much for tuning in because it really does make a difference for us knowing that we're able to help people. We have some questions though. One, is this the best time to go live? Is this, if you're watching the replay, even if this is if there's a better time, we would love that feedback just because we're organizing, kind of strategizing, assessing how can we help people the best. And then the other thing is this a topic where you're hesitant to ask questions? The whole goal here is to help, and we want to be able to help. So like last Tuesday, on Tuesday we asked if we had these examples, uh, you want your examples shown next time. That way we're helping you directly. Like this is your game plan. We're just handing it to you, right? And some people reached out and said, like, hey, look, that's not something that I want to share here on LinkedIn, or that's not something that I want to, like, I don't want people to know that I'm, educating myself on finances or that I'm in a different position. Like, I struggle to share that information, which is totally understandable. I just wanted to say this part. Don't forget that you can reach out directly to Donnell, right? Donnell?
Absolutely.
And the other thing is of DM questions. So we have a couple of options. One of them is you can just DM us the questions, of course. But the other one is you can just, well, here, we'll just go to it. You can text this number right here. And so you can text us your questions. You can reach us this way, of course. And then if you have a question, we'll answer it live. And that way you can stay anonymous. So we want to make sure that everyone understands that those options are available to you so that we can make sure that you're not trying to then take all this information and interpret how do I apply it to my life? How do I apply it to my situation? Because there may be something a point of leverage in particular that you might be missing that might be a game changer for you. So I think that's kind of what we're going to go over tonight so that you can kind of show people with some examples that we do have, right? That we have had shared with us. And that way, and we are just going to consider them that we're all Dorothy. All
No
these are
doubt.
just Dorothy's, Dorothy examples, Dorothy details. I like that.
So I appreciate you bringing this subject up. I was going to do the same. So I appreciate, I actually like the fact that we're talking about this here because a couple things. I'm not a guru. What I'm walking you through are actions that we are taking. I don't like saying this, but I will be 50 this week. And if some of the things that we are sharing with you, we had implemented 20 years ago, we would not be doing this right now. We would be on an island somewhere, I guarantee it. So we do not, just to be frank, we don't have our shit together. But we've got some actions and some items that we just want to share. And let's be real transparent about it. LinkedIn is our most qualified audience. So I get it. Hey, I don't want my HR person or my business professional X to see or, see that I don't really understand or know everything that I should know about my financial future. But the true part is less than 2% of Americans retire with $1 million or more. So what that means is 90% of us aren't doing everything we should be doing or aren't doing everything we could be doing to be able to achieve our financial goal. 98% of us, don't really know what's going on. So I think the truth is, let's get in here and let's talk about it. And to your point, there's a lot of anonymous ways to share information. It is not about the who for me, it's the what, meaning we are all going through something similar. And if you want to see what, you know what, I'm putting away $500 a month or $500 every 2 weeks out of my check into my 401k. I wonder what that same $500 every 2 weeks would do in a secure compound interest account. Let's talk about it. And again, it's not about a name. It's like, hey, let run these numbers. I'm very curious as to what this would look like. If you have a cash value life insurance policy out there, I get this a lot. If you got a cash value life insurance policy out there that you had since you've been 18 years old, that you may have gotten from your parents, and you know you have cash value, but you don't fully understand how to leverage it, or you don't know what it's doing for you, let's talk about it, because that money should be working for you. 9 times out of 10, no, it's not properly structured, so you could. So let me help you understand what we could do different. So my point is this: I hope the people that watch this live or watch this on replay see this as a safe place, a safe space to have these types of discussions. Because what I'm hoping to get is challenged. I don't have all these are not all the answers. This is just happens to be what we're doing. And I'm not talking to you about anything that we aren't doing. Velocity banking, doing it right now. Infinite banking, doing it right now. Have a secure compound interest account. And there are things that I'm still learning on a daily basis about these tools. And I just feel led to share it. So what I'm hoping is we can get more people from that qualified space of LinkedIn to challenge what it is I'm doing. Go get your financial advisor. Bring him in here. Let's talk
Bring
about
them
it.
in.
Let's talk about it.
Well, Melissa, Sri, thank you so much for tuning in over here on LinkedIn and for commenting and saying hello. I want to clarify something, because I think that the concept of having it all together and
Right.
being an expert at something, I do want to just clarify something, because I think that for most people, they think in order for you to say that you've made it, you have to be rich. And this is what keeps people discouraged from putting together, building a machine that they can become financially free in. There's a difference in assuming that what everybody says, you have to have $1 million, or now it's more like $3 or $4 million in order to retire in a legit way, not even just comfortably. In order to retire and be able to cover things like healthcare expenses or whatever it's going to cost later down the road, you have to have an insane amount of money in order to make that happen. And a lot of people can't do that.
Right.
When I see what you've done for us, the comfort in knowing that everything's going to be okay, the comfort in knowing that there's a machine in place is insane, because it means you don't have to be rich in order to be covered. It means you don't have to have 1 million or $3 million in order to retire, in order to stop working. It means you just need a machine. You just need leverage, and you just need to understand how your machine is built and how you can contribute to that machine. So I think there's a difference here. There's absolutely a difference in we're going to teach you how to save $1 million, or there's a difference in we're going to teach you to use the same strategies that we have to become our own bank. And because we've become our own bank, right? This sets us apart from people who have sizable retirement accounts, because they can't do anything with it right now. And it's sitting in a casino. So at the point where our machine becomes the same size as their machine, the chances of our machine being reduced because of what some president did or what some act of Congress did, that we won't be as impacted as other people who are invested in traditional systems. So that's why we're here. Really, I don't think that even if we were on an island somewhere. However, to your point, though, we don't have to be here, and we don't have to be talking about this, because we've already figured it out. But that's the problem, is that people who have figured it out and people who have these systems in place, they aren't sharing with other people. And because it keeps them above, right? Hey, I've made it. And as long as you have to go out there and learn how to do it, and by the time you and I can have the same level of conversation, then I will respect you, or I will feel like you are my peer. That's kind of the attitude out there, and that's not okay. We go farther and faster when we go together. And so to get out here and say, hey, we built our machine, our machine's going to keep running and we're going to keep growing. But right now, instead of waiting, we could wait and then talk about it and tell you what we did, or we can tell you what we already did now, and then you can come too. And that's kind of the reason why we're here. But if this isn't the best time, if we could do it at a different day, if there's something that's competing on this time so that everybody can tune in. Why does my shirt keep doing this? Gosh, so annoying. Then that's also something that we want to know. So now that we have that out of the way, you want to jump into some examples, or do you guys have any questions? Because that was another thing, is like leave some room for questions. And I'm assuming that if you have questions, you'll go ahead and put it in the chat, but perhaps we need to like carve out some space to ask specifically for questions. So at any point in time, just ask them and we'll make sure they get answered.
Because you and I can go back and forth all day long. So
Well, and we do.
we got to pause for questions. I like that.
Oh, no, that's a good thing though. And I like doing this with you. Okay, so we're gonna go head over to the vibe board. Yes?
Yep. So, or did we want to do the video?
That's right. Good call. I almost forgot.
It's all good.
Yeah.
And then just quick setup though.
Yeah.
The whole point of jumping into the vibe board is we wanted to again be a bit more specific on some of the challenges the different Dorothys are facing and some actions that can be taken. But how did this all come about? It all came about because there was this tornado that sent Dorothy into this space where what she realized was she had all the tools all along, but just didn't realize it. But it seems like every day there's a new tornado. Every day there's bricks, there's banks closing. Every day there's something. And I think what we wanted to do was just share with what some of the things are being thrown at us without necessarily giving us the tools to be able to dig out of it. So
Yep. That's it. That's right. So let's get into that. All right. So we've got this video here, and I think it does sum it up pretty well. You can't start a YouTube short from the beginning, so I had to go all the way to the end. But all right, so let's play it.
Here's what happens if Congress doesn't raise the $31.4 trillion debt ceiling by January 1st and we default on our debt. Our country would face massive job losses, the stock market would plummet, interest rates would soar, and the U.S. dollar's position as the world reserve currency would be weakened. Why does the debt just keep on going up? Because of three government programs: Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. The government has promised way more than it can afford to deliver for these programs, and we simply don't have enough revenue coming into the U.S. Treasury to keep them afloat. So what do we do year after year? We throw it all on the national credit card. In fact, the government is planning on borrowing $20 trillion between now and 2033 just to keep those benefits flowing. And because the government can't keep on borrowing ad infinitum, sooner or later, they're going to have to start raising taxes. Some experts even say they'll have to double, and that spells trouble for Americans who have the lion's share of their retirement savings in 401ks or IRAs. The best thing to do is to shift that money to tax-free accounts like Roth IRAs while tax rates are low. Here's what happens if
All right, so
win
that.
fast. Win fast. What are we saying? Hey, the country's hair is on fire. What should you do if you don't want to be impacted by the country's hair being on fire? What I heard was you might want to make sure that the money that you're going to rely on when you are at that age where you need to retire is in a position to where you're not being taxed on whatever that rate is in the future, because hindsight is the gurus are saying that in the future the taxes are going to be higher. Well, I think we already knew that. But what I appreciate about what's being said here is he actually gave us something that we can do. He highlighted a Roth IRA. Well, I'll go a step further and say what he's basically saying is we want to be in a position to where our money's growing tax-free. So regardless of what the tax rate is in the future, we're not impacted by it. And I think the examples we'll walk through today are some other vehicles you could use to also put your money in a position so that you're not being taxed. So
Yeah. Just part of the recap, though, is thinking back to the examples that we were talking about from Oz. Hey, Ken. The Munchkins from Munchkinland were the silent generation who were sold Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare. This is their jam. This is their candy land, right? This was the promise that was hand delivered and curated for them. And now we're all paying for that. essentially, because they didn't, whoa, what did we do? They really didn't do the math, right? They
Right.
just made the promises. And so this generation is now kind of freaking out, going, well, are we going to be able to keep it? We don't know. Well, of course they're going to be able to keep it because they promised all these people, and this generation is still making decisions inside of our government, right? So they're not going anywhere. Even the boomers who are there, they were also raised inside of this protective system that was the promise and the American dream. And so why would they let that go? Everything, all the decisions that they've made have led them to having that dream. So now we have to say, where can we see this going? What is going to happen? At some point, we can see now we cannot afford Social Security. Regardless of what was promised, we can't afford it. So what does that mean? Taxes are going to have to go up. Does it mean it's going to stop and then a huge tax hike? I think we're going to see them, the decrease, the decline and the incline of both at the same time. And
Right.
so
The
this is,
programs decline, the taxes increase. We're supposed to be paying for it, but they're still phasing it out. So no, I'm with you. I'm
yeah.
with you.
And so this is where having systems that are not dependent on their decisions are so impactful. But you got to think about it though. This, where would you put your money in the bank? Why do you feel secure that your money is okay to stay in the bank?
Conditioning.
Because it's insured.
Right. But no one has ever said this is what FDIC insured means.
Right.
Because most people think, hey, all of my money is insured, I'm fine. That is not what that means.
But essentially, what you're doing when you're keeping your money in the bank is you're giving the bank a free loan to put that money in a secure compound interest account. Is to put that money in a place where it's going to be secure. The bank is not the place that's secure.
Right.
And I'm not waving the flag for take your money out the bank. What I'm waving the flag for is to take control and have a game plan. And that's essentially what we're going to get into today.
Let's do it.
All right. Sounds good. Hey, Kelsey, you want a full screen or half screen?
Um, if
Well,
you're gonna,
we'll start here.
okay.
We'll see. Oh, gosh. Here we go again. All right.
I love your editing skill set. So I'm gonna say you kind of move where you think we should move. Like,
Okay. All
you
right.
got this.
I'll,
All right.
I'm the
So
producer.
right. So real quick. Yesterday, Tuesday, we moved Dorothy throughout this maze, this game of life, and they were all Dorothy's at different stages of this game of life, different age groups, different challenges, and so what I wanted to do is just kind of walk through some of the specifics around the how. So if we were to just simply start with the 25-year-old who, oh, sorry about that.
You want to lock that and then it won't move anymore.
We're good. For the Dorothy's of hey, just got out of school, just graduated college, just started a job, and hey, what are the actions that I take? How do I get this thing started? It was kind of identifying what are some of the challenges and kind of working through the opportunities. So this example is kind of speaking to a 25-year-old Dorothy who, again, just started working, makes about 35,000 a year in income, some credit card debt, a couple car note or whatever the case may be. But the goal is to be able to retire early. But what is the message that most people around this age, and again, that age varies. It's anywhere from, again, I'm going to continue to bring up this 15-year-old, from 15 to maybe 40 years old. The response that most people are getting around that space is, all you got to do is do what I did. All you got to do is contribute to your 401k, reduce your debt. And hey, when you get my age at 65, even though I've got this pension that is paying for the rest of my life, when you get to this point, you'll be okay. So all you got to do is follow this same path. When in truth, the dynamic has shifted. Things have changed. And so the thought process is, okay, what are the steps that you take to be able to get in a better position at this age? And the thought process is there's a velocity banking opportunity. And then there's also a secure compound interest account. So what do I even mean by velocity banking and secure compound interest? Well, we've got this credit card debt, right? We've got this credit card debt that for someone who just started working and has a decent income, what do we do to be able to reduce that debt and increase your cash flow. Well, the concept of velocity banking, and just to kind of high level go over it as a reminder, we did a live a while back, kind of walking through this process with the gentleman buying a scooter. The moral of the story, though, is with that $35,000 a year income, you would want to take all of that income and put it into a debt tool. But what's a debt tool? Well, there's many different types. There's credit cards, there's HELOCs, and there's PLOCs. HELOCs being home equity lines of credit, meaning using the equity in your home to be able to create a tool that you can then use to pay down debt. There's personal lines of credit, which again, very similar, but you're using your credit history and your credit worthiness to be able to receive it. And what 24-year-old, or 25-year-old, that can qualify for any of that? Not many.
Right.
So the other option then is using a credit card, which doesn't sound like a viable option, but it absolutely is. And the thought process is this: all your income goes into that credit card, and you would actually pay bills from that credit card. If you were to do that, and again, just using a very short example.
Because the point here is not to pay for something that you can't afford. The
Right.
point here is to leverage money or space. No different than if you're moving a bunch of stuff out of a room, you would move it into the hallway, right? If you're
Right.
moving stuff in a room, move it into the hallway, and then you could move it back into the room. You're just leveraging that space. Essentially, this is the same thing. It's leverage.
So let's say you've got a $5,000 maxed out credit card, right?
Yeah.
And the objective is, hey, how can I get some room within this credit card to be able to do other things? And in addition, if I was to be able to reduce that debt, what does it do to my DTI? What does it do to my credit worthiness? There's a whole lot of things that could happen if that was the case. $35,000 a year is right around $36,000. So we're talking about roughly $3,000 a month. So if you were to take all $3,000 and dump that into this credit card, well, what would happen? Well, if it's $5,000 maxed out, it would put you right around. I guess I went the wrong direction. So if you dump $3,000 into that credit card, it would knock that balance down to somewhere like $2K, right?
Right.
But obviously you got to pay bills. You have to pay bills, and the objective is you pay bills out of that credit card. So as you're paying bills out of that credit card, that balance is going to go back up.
Right.
And let's say if you make $3,000 a year, let's say you've got $2,000 of bills. So as you pay bills out of the credit card, that means that balance is rising back up to about 4K.
But for just in one moment, because I think this might be a part where people miss the magic. What would it be if in that same month, that same 30-day period, they were to have just made the minimum payment?
Right. If they would have just made the minimum payment, they would have a small portion of principal would have knocked down a portion of that $5,000 balance, but we can all agree it would have still been very high. And the minimum payment on that credit card might have been what? $60, $90, $100, maybe even 200. But the bottom line is there would have been not much room moved off the balance of that credit card. Dumping your entire income on it made a significant impact into the balance on that credit card. But again, you do still have to pay bills out of it. And so when you pay those bills,
you have to
Go
pay bills, period. It's just
Right.
where are you paying bills from? And don't forget about the savings and the interest that you're not paying when you do it this way. You're not saving yourself anything by keeping it in the bank if you're being charged interest somewhere else, right?
That's right. So if you make $3,000 a year, you put $3,000 on a $5,000 balance credit card, you knock that balance down to $2,000, and then you still pay bills out of it, which may be $2,000 in bills, which means the balance goes back up to 4K. That $1,000 of room is living on the credit card. So you still have access to it. You can still use it. It is not gone anywhere, but what it has done, it has taken a maxed out credit card and dropped that balance down to 4,000. And then you do that year after year. How many thousands would it take for that credit card to be paid off? We're talking 5 months.
Right.
In 5 months, this credit card would be zero. So how would the credit card companies look at you based off the fact that you've made such a dent into this credit card balance, and how much cash flow is now increased? Meaning, now how much room do you have to be able to do something different?
Right.
Maybe put yourself in a better position so you never have to be in a situation like this again, solely based off the current income. So, and again, what is the current income? She makes $35,000 a year. So using velocity banking to free up the cash flow, and then identifying how much cash flow is available. So in this case, I'm going to call it $300 a month. Using that cash flow to then jump into a secure compound interest account. So if you flip over to the other side,
Okay.
and so if she's 25 years old, and I always build these out to 65, so I'll continue to do that. But if she was just to simply take that $300 of cash flow that has now been identified based off velocity banking, take that that $300,000 a month and put it somewhere secure. By age 65, she would have tax-free income for life of about $131,000 tax-free. To kind of break these numbers down a little bit, from age 25 to 65, which is 40 years. Who wants to wait 40 years to touch their money? Not me. But regardless, she would have put in about 144,000 over that time period. But she would have liquid cash, a savings account of 1.4 million. What could you do with 1.4 million? And remember, her goal was to retire early. I built this out to 65 just to show you what it would look like. But if she wanted to be able to retire early, let's say 58. A year before she would be legally able to retire. Now, I'm not saying that $75,000 is enough to retire on, but if I walked up behind you on your 58th birthday and gave you a tax-free check of $75,000, I don't think you're upset about it.
For the rest of her life, not until it runs out.
Right. For the rest of her life. And again, the assumption is she would never put another dollar in, but I could argue if I'm making $75,000 a year, you're telling me I can't contribute another $300 a month to continue this? Meaning, why would I turn that machine off? Why wouldn't I let that machine continue to print money for me? But
I have a question.
Yes.
And if anybody else has a question, remember, please just feel free to ask it and I will make sure it gets answered. She's 25 right now, but let's say when she's 33, okay? When she's 33, she wants to start her own business, but she doesn't have income coming in, or 35. It's been in there for 10 years. Yeah. She wants to start her own business. Now she's got a family. She wants to be able to stay home with her kids, maybe something like that. She just wants to be able to work from home, and she has an idea and she wants to start a business, but she doesn't have the money to be able to produce the income while she's getting her business off the ground. This is a very typical situation for most people and what prevents them from joining the entrepreneur club, right? So what would she be, while she was even still working on her business, what would she be able to how would she be able to leverage this in the meantime?
Yep, I got you. So 25 years old, contributing for 10 years, $300 a month. And again, obviously $5,500 is enough to be able to retire off, but she has created a savings account of putting $36,000 away over that 10-year period. She's created a savings account that has grown to $52,740. Now, if she would have taken that same $300 and put it in a 401k, she'd have actually more in a 401k. But to your point, the objective is to be able to use some of this money to be able to do something different, regardless of what that different is. If it's start a business, buy a car, pay a bill, pay medical bills, go on a trip, regardless of what it is, does she have access to it? Well, she has access to all of it. This is liquid, meaning it can be used for whatever you want. Now I can, if you were to ask me what you should do with it, I would kind of give you my own perspective. But the bottom line is, this is your money. Well, if this $300 had gone into her company's 401k, how much of that could she have been able to use to start that same business?
Well, she could leverage it, but she's going to be penalized for doing so.
No, she could leverage it. She could borrow against her company's 401k. A lot of people do that.
Right.
but she would be required to pay it back.
Yeah,
And
of
in the
course.
midst of being required to pay it back, it's kind of impacting her ability to do whatever that was. But she does have the ability to use it, and she would be required to pay it back. And to be honest, this is no different. If she wanted to use money from her liquid cash, if she were to ask me, I would suggest she also pay it back, or pay some portion of it back, or at least pay the interest, just to keep her account whole. But the moral of the story is there's no hoops to jump through. There's no person to ask. There's no concern around how much of this money can be used, because it's all yours.
And she doesn't have to. So
Right.
if there's a situation where she's got to get the income coming in, she's got $5,500 a month that she can contribute to her household, and she's got this other amount to leverage from her cash value. She doesn't
Right.
actually have to pay it back. So if, let's say it takes her 5 years, she's got small kids and she's just like mom brain fog, whatever the case is, and in 5 years later she starts doing really well in her business, she could start paying it back then if she wanted to, or just not at all. She has options here where you don't have options. But the other
That's
part
the
I
key.
wanted,
Go ahead.
but other part I wanted to highlight was, it may look like she has more in her 401k right here, but what we know is that within that year, that number could be a fraction of what it is. Whereas over on this side, this is where the security is because of the 0% floor.
Well, hold on. Let's go back to age 58. So let's
Okay.
play that out. So I agree with you. She's contributed till age 58, and I'm going to call these numbers comparable, meaning she has 762,000 in her MPI plan, but she's got 604,000 in her 401k. I don't think those are pretty close. I'm not mad at either one of those numbers, but which one can she effectively use to do whatever she wants? And to
Right.
your point, regardless of what happens with the stock market, if at this point the market decides to take a correction, or the market decides to crash, how impacted are these numbers? Who's impacted the most? It would be that 401k, because it's directly tied to market risk, whereas this dollar amount was never tied to market risk. So she may not make as much money, but she definitely wouldn't lose the money that she's made. And the last piece is it's age 58. Even if she wanted to, there's $75,000 available to her tax free for the rest of her life starting at age 58. But even if she wanted to with her 401k, let's not just talk about the $24,000, the 4% of what she would be able to take. She wouldn't be able to even touch that, because she would be penalized on it, meaning it's not even an option
Right.
at this stage.
So someone who's in, we're at the 40-minute mark. So
Yep.
I wanted to know, could we maybe jump ahead to the Dorothy in their 40s?
Yep. We sure can.
We would have used a male example just to be, fair, but
But hold on. We are all Dorothy.
we're just using Dorothy as a reference. Yeah.
Right. We are all Dorothy. So jump over to the other side, so I can just kind of set the stage for the 40-year-old.
Okay, there we go.
So if you remember, again, 42 years old. This is I'll call it the majority of the clients that I work with as it relates to self-directed retirement accounts. These are entrepreneurs. These are YouTubers. These are social media influencers, affiliate marketers, drop shippers. These are people who have taken a non-traditional route to be able to achieve the income that they have, and they realize in the midst of making all of this money, we didn't set up a vehicle to be able to produce a secure retirement. And all of the conversations they've been having with financial advisors, Fidelity, Vanguard, have been talking to these non-traditional approach taking people with traditional retirement planning. There's a conflict there. And so the objective is like, how do we take someone who's 42 years old, 3 rental properties, producing $12,000 a year in rental income, making about $60,000 a year, because entrepreneurs don't like to show all the money that they're making. What can we do? What is that? What can we do with this current situation to be able to produce a secure retirement? Because the issue is I don't have anything currently in place. Well, there's actually a lot to work with here. Couple things. Making $60,000 a year and being 42 years old. there's an opportunity to at least take a portion of your income and put it away as though, you know, put it away in a secure compound interest account so that it can produce income for you securely. But the other option is these three rentals. While most of my real estate investors see real estate as being their main vehicle for producing retirement income, in this particular situation, it's clear that the neighborhood that these rental properties are in aren't producing large sums of cash flow for him. $12,000 a year with three rentals is not a lot of cash flow. And if he's going to continue buying properties in that same area, it would take roughly 21 rentals to be able to achieve the income that he's looking for,
And
which
how would
sounds like
he
more work.
and how would he ever be able to afford the down payments on those if he doesn't have the income coming in to be able to, or the leverage?
Well, as it relates to, if he's got three properties, so that's the Burr method. So he would use the Burr method to turn those three properties into 21, meaning it can be done. I'm just saying there's a lot of work to do it. But what if he took that exact same, just kind of looked at it from a different perspective, meaning he's got $300,000 of equity in these three properties. If he just took one property, sold that one property, and took that $100,000 and put it away, what could that do for him?
Okay.
And that's kind of the thought process here. So it's using some of this equity to put it into a secure compound interest account along with some type of monthly dollar amount. And what does that turn into? So if you flip over to the other side.
Okay.
So he's, again, 42 years old. And this is actually, just so we're clear, this is an actual client of mine. And again, I'll build it out to 65. Taking $100,000 of equity, selling one property, taking $100,000 of that equity out and dumping it into a secure compound interest account. And then turning right around and putting away, he's 42 years old, putting away roughly about $500 a month. Not a lot. By age 65, he would be producing $140,000 tax-free for life. Again, he only got rid of one property. And in getting rid of that one property, he took the equity from that property, dumped it into a secure compound interest account. So without taking any other action, there's no management fees, there's no tenants, there's no toilets, there's no trash. All he did was put his money away and slept well at night, and it's producing for him $140,000 in tax-free income. How many rentals would he have needed to turn those current $12,000 a year in income, those three rentals, into $140,000? Again, we're talking about a lot. Now,
Yeah,
I get it.
I don't
He could
wanna do the
also,
math.
right. He
It's
could
a
also
lot.
go a different path and buy larger properties. Like, I get it. There's many different actions that could be taken here, but how much work was involved to produce this income?
This is the annoying part, is that these types of things have been out there all the time.
Right.
And while other people are going like, yeah, if I could just get more properties, and they're doing the math so that it makes sense, and they're going, yes, I need to grow. This is what I need to build. This is the business I need to build. This is the income that I need to be producing so that I will be okay one day. Whereas other people are simply just leveraging what they currently have in a different way, and they see it different because they have different tools.
Right. And here's the thing. I am not against investing in real estate. Let me show you something.
Well, no,
So-
no, that's not the point though. The point is just that there's a long way of doing it, right? And there's a shorter, easier way, and it's the work smarter, not harder type
But
of
my point is you can
concept.
do both.
Sure.
Meaning, so let's say you built this compound interest account for the next, let's call it 10 years, so 52.
You
By
sold
age
the house,
52.
right? You still sold
Yep, sold the
one
house.
property.
This account has been growing over the last 10 years. You have liquid cash, $272,000 available. So maybe you're tired of buying those $100,000 properties, putting 10% down. So you take 10 grand, buy a $100,000 property, and that's where you're getting these $300, $400, $500 a month rents. You have $272,000 available to you. You can now scale. You now have the cash flow to be able to scale and do bigger and better things. So even if real estate investing is the goal and that's what you're focused on, here's an opportunity to use your cash value and take an infinite banking approach and use that cash to now grow it for you exponentially. So you have, my point is you have options.
Yeah,
You have
but
options that weren't available to you based off those three properties bringing in $12,000 a year.
we have options because you have leverage, and I think that's the secret, right? That's the
Right.
secret most people who build wealth have is leverage. That's what was a game changer for us for sure, is being able to identify where your leverage is, which is, I'm going to say it again, if you would like to be able to identify where's your leverage today, where's the leverage that you can create, if you're struggling to interpret what these strategies mean for you and how to implement them, then it's nothing but a word, y'all. Just put it in the chat, put it in a text message, put it in a DM us with that information so that Donnell can put together what your game plan would be. And this is free. You
And
just
what I love about this tool is it also allows you to compare what you're currently doing inside your traditional retirement account. So even if it's, hey, I'm currently putting away $500 a month in my company's 401k. I just want to know what it would look like if I took that same $500, not go find other money, not impact your lifestyle in any way, shape, or form. Take the exact same $500 that you already have going to your company's 401k. What would it look like in a secure compound interest account?
yeah,
It might surprise you.
right.
So we can jump over to the last example as well. So this is the 53-year-old, and kind of set the stage here. This is an actual example as well. Um,
Whoops,
uh-oh,
my bad.
no problem. This is an actual example as well where it's a couple who make a decent income, but their goal is the main goal here is to retire by 62. Again, they're 53, so the goal is to retire in 9 years. They have decent income, decent cash flow. They have equity in their home. How, the goal is to be very, very intentional on being able to retire by 62, whatever that reason is. So how do you go about it? Well, this is one where, as a fiduciary, there are some times where I run into situations where I don't have all of the answers, or I can't provide all of the tools. And let me show you what I mean. So we can take this cash flow and obviously get that into a secure compound interest account and start making money. In addition, there's this $280,000 mortgage that's on a home that's worth 480, which means there's equity there. So there's an opportunity to take advantage of some of that equity in the form of a first position home equity line of credit. And ultimately, what I mean by a first position home equity line of credit is simply in place of the mortgage. So replace the mortgage and put in place of that a HELOC that can then be used as an open-ended product to be able to put money into it and get money out of it. Again, following velocity banking, using your home as one big credit card. And in the process of using your home as that one big credit card, we would do the exact same thing we did with the 25-year-old. All of your income goes in, you pay bills out of your home, the difference lives on the home, and that equity over time, you're able to take as lump sums or monthly chunks or however you would like and dump that into a secure vehicle. So what would that look like if we were to take advantage of an opportunity like that here? So if you want to jump over to the calculator.
Yep.
So again, as a 53-year-old, and again, the goal is 65 or 62. But again, I always build these out to 65 because we've been conditioned to believe that that's the age that we're supposed to retire at. So, and if again, they've got $200,000 in equity, if they were to somehow be able to take that $200,000 of equity and get it into a secure compound interest account, and they've got $1,000 in cash flow. Obviously, you don't want to take all of the cash flow, so you take half that, $500 of that cash flow, dump it in here as well. What does that look like? Well, by age 65, again, we're talking, what is that, 12 years? By age 65, they would have 66,000 in tax-free income for life. They currently make 180,000. That is nowhere close to the current income that they currently have.
Right.
So
What do they
how do we
do?
bridge that gap? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, what do they do?
And then remember, this is also not the age they wanted to retire. They wanted to retire at 62. So you back that number down even further, that number's even smaller. So first off, that's not a realistic ask. But there are other options out there. We talk about these 5 strategies: velocity banking, infinite banking, self-directed IRA, 401k, a first position HELOC, and obviously a secure compound interest account in the form of MPI. We talk about these 5 strategies, but there are other strategies out there, because one of the items that I highlighted in their profile is they have previous employers' plans. They have old 401ks sitting around not doing a whole lot. Well, they could self-direct those 401ks and buy real estate and do some other things to help grow them. But they can also take those 401ks and put them into an annuity. Hold on. I just got to get my pen. They can take that self-directed 401k, those previous employers' plans and put them into an annuity. And what that would do is it's taking all of those qualified dollars, those 401ks, and even IRA dollars, and putting them in a vehicle that's growing tax. It could either be a tax-free or a tax-deferred vehicle, but those vehicles grow over time. You dump those in there over that 11-year period, 53 to 62 or 53 to 65, 12-year period. And what ends up happening is they're growing at interest rates of 8, 9, 12% compounding year over year over year. And at the end of that time period, you're producing income for life. Not income for a certain period of time that may run out. It's income for life. So this is one of those situations where we may do multiple things. We may take, take the equity from the home and take the cash flow and dump it into a secure compound interest account. That would be one half of the goal. But maybe the other half of that goal is taking those previous employers' plans and putting them into annuities. And again, this is one of those where I'm not 100% educated on that, but that's kind of what my next stage of my growth is, to be able to bring annuities to this space as well. But if you are in a position where, you know what, I've got previous employers' plans, I'm not ready to take action and buy real estate using it, I want to put it in a place to set it and forget it, an income producing annuity is absolutely a vehicle that can be used for that, and I can help bridge that gap for you there too.
So what do their bottom numbers look like on that screen? Can you scroll up
Yep.
so we can see?
Yep. So they would have put in $272,000 over that short period of time, and they would have produced an asset of about $510,000, $500,000. And again, notice in the 401k or IRA, there's actually more. But again, we're talking, my goal is income. The focus is on income. The difference in income is $66,000 compared to right around $20,000.
And leverage. So
Absolutely.
a lot of people, when they get closer to retirement age, they also are looking at what are those expenses that will come up. Some of them
Medical.
are even in purchasing a vehicle. This vehicle has to last me because I don't have this income that I can show a bank that I'm making anymore. So if I buy a vehicle right before I retire, this has to really last me through. And since I'm not really going anywhere, maybe it would, right? But sometimes that's not the case. And so they have to find leverage in different ways. Or this 53-year-old example could be us. This 53-year-old example could be somebody's parent right now who is the 25-year-old's parent, right? Who did not have a plan. And so now she's going, well, of course, I want to get started. I now see the value in leveraging time as part of this equation because it's an important part.
And you bring up, I think you're spot on when you bring up time, because that implies compound cycles, meaning because you're 53, all that means is, hey, you don't have the same time that your 25-year-old has to be able to produce income. And so in being conscious of that, you have to take some specific action. And one of it is you have to be a bit more aggressive at this age, meaning, hey, because I might have 2, 3, 4 compound cycles left, meaning the amount of time it takes for my money to double just one time, in order to achieve that income goal that I want, I need my money to at least be able to compound 3, if not 4 times.
You want to show the?
No, I think we're fine on that because.
Oh, my bad.
No, you're good. So now that you've shown it, okay, I got you.
I'm the producer. You have to do.
Yeah, so
as
I
I do.
It's all good. I got you. We're right here. So from a compound cycle perspective, we are all born with a certain number, and that number is right around 15. And again, this is kind of given the benefit of the doubt that those compound cycles are happening every 5 years. And so the thought process is we all have right around 15 compound cycles. And I show the compound cycle ending at around 70 years of age. We can talk whether or not that 70 years of age needs to look more like 80. But the moral of the story is we all have about 15. So when you're sitting around 53 years old, how many compound cycles do you have left, right? To be able to allow your money to double just one time compared to your 25-year-old son or daughter have way more compound cycles. So that's why putting away $200-300 a month can achieve a reasonable or realistic income that you can retire off of early or allow it to wait to 65. But you as a 53-year-old putting away $200 a month is not going to achieve a whole lot because you haven't given your money enough time. So we do have to be a bit more realistic and a bit more intentional about how we get there.
Yeah, all great points. Okay, so I'm going to open it up for questions if anybody has any. I would like to make sure that everyone gets questions answered. If you do, you got to put them in the chat or text us. I don't know that I'll be able to see my direct messages during the live stream. So those I think will have to be answered after.
And I get a
After the
fair
stream.
amount of direct messages from these, especially from the those who watch them after the fact. And
Yeah.
please feel free, send over your numbers, send over your thoughts, send over your feedback, and we can absolutely, if we don't address it during this live, we can absolutely address it on the live after. Because the bottom line is, it's just simply math based off your age, based off your income. What do you think you can contribute? What do you think your cash flow is? And just using that simple information, we can back into what a realistic income for you would be. One thing I want to note here that we didn't talk very much about, and I think this 53-year-old example is a prime one to talk about it, is these secure compound interest accounts, it's life insurance, which
Right.
means there is not just income that we're talking about here. There's a death benefit involved if something were to happen to either spouse. And that death benefit in some cases is upwards of $2.5 million. And so as awesome as that might be, as awesome as the income may be, there's also an opportunity there where if something else were to happen, God forbid, one of the spouses happened to pass away for whatever the reason would be, there's a death benefit that would also pay out. And when we talk about death benefits of sizes like that, now we're talking about a way of creating generational wealth. And we spend
Right.
very little time talking about those death benefits, but that's a huge piece as to why this is such a secure product.
There was a question about sent in about the 529 plans. So just could we do more content or do a live stream specifically diving a little deeper into the 529 and college saving plans because they something we had said before about how they seem to be a good idea and that based off the tools that we've had before, but in comparing them to something like this, how does it compare, and so that they know how to strategize for generating wealth for their kids or opportunities for their kids.
Absolutely. And I love kids policies because it allows you to take a very small dollar amount, but it has such a significant impact. And the short of it as it relates to the difference between a 529 plan and starting a secure compound interest account for your child is this. When it comes time that you're required to use your 529 plan, that's it. There's no more growth beyond college life. Once you have used it for college, it's done. Or if you don't use it for college, you're impacted. But a secure compound interest account carries through death. A secure compound interest account carries way beyond, can take care of you way beyond college. And because of the death benefit, it can also create generational wealth. That's the major difference. So it could be the same dollar amount, $100 in a 529. Okay, $100 in a secure compound interest account. I'd say by college or through that college age, they would have both of them will have comparable amounts in them. The difference is one carries on through death. The other one stops right there.
So what if that 25-year-old would have been a baby with a policy, and
529
so
or
instead
with a
of the
secure
five,
compound interest account.
can
Yep.
you want to show them what that difference would be?
Sure, I can do that.
Okay.
And so give me just a minute. Did you slide up? Yep, we're already over here.
Yep.
So we're talking, what would this look like if they would have started a no, I'm sorry, secure compound interest account for a newborn?
Well, regardless, they're putting $100 a
Yeah.
month because you're going to compare, right?
Hmm.
$100 a month until they're 18, right? That's when they would be going to college. So $100 a month till they're 18. And then when she graduates college, she's taking over at 25
And
to
building on
then,
top of that.
yeah, right.
Gotcha. All right. So in essence, what would be happening there is you would be passing on to your 18-year-old an asset worth $36,000, $36,000 to be able to use towards college. And I'm not saying that you can pay off college using $36,000, but it's a significant support to be able to get you through college. The difference though is, just if she was to just simply pick up this $100 a month and carry it through. And with the 529 plan, you can't pick up this $100 and carry it through. It can
It's
only be
done.
used for one reason. It can be used for schooling. Now, it can be used for trade schools. Like if you're continuing your education, you can carry it through your doctorate or whatever the case may be there. Like that's awesome. But beyond school, you can't do anything else with it. And so
Right.
if that was the case here, if she was to just simply pick that $100 up a month, $100 a month up, and carry it through the end of college even. So let's call it
25.
25.
Yeah.
So gone from a $32,000 asset to a $60,000 asset. Cash value is doubled. While you were in school using $100 a month to continue the growth on your secure compound interest account, your account is now doubled in size. You made money while in school. And so now when you exit school, okay, you may have debt associated, and I think the average debt, college debt is right around $60,000, right? Theoretically, you could pay it off here if you would like. I wouldn't suggest it. What I would suggest is you allow a secure compound interest account to do what it's supposed to do, and that is grow.
Well, here's the thing though. If you have a 529 plan and your kid decides, I don't want to go to college, which a lot of people are going, why do I need to go to college? I'll just have Chat GPT
Right.
tell me what I need to learn. Uh, will you do me this favor though?
Sure.
Because we were giving the example of the 25-year-old, and I think this is a powerful uh, comparison. So if she's now being able to pick up at 25, she's got a career, she's
Hmm.
in the throes of things, and now instead of her going, I have to sacrifice this money per month out of my paycheck, right? Now
Hmm.
she's just continuing to build on her machine. So let's say she still only puts $100 in, which
Right.
probably she could afford more at this point. But let's
Right.
just say she only puts $100 in for another 10 years. What does that look like?
So age 35.
Yep. Remember, because she was going to start a business or something at this age. We kind of gave that scenario.
At 35, she would have $20,000 a year tax free she could take as income at age 35. But in addition to that, she would have an asset worth $173,000, an asset that she can use to leverage to start her business and whatever those actions that she wanted to take. And again, I go back to, for me, it doesn't matter whether it's start a business or whatever the case may be. It's I have leverage to be able to do what I want to do.
Right. So for some people, they're going, well, gosh, I feel like they may be thinking to themselves too, like, I'm okay. I've got my plan in place. I think I'm good. Or they may be thinking, this is like of the rite of passage. You get your job and then you start learning about retirement. And now I'm going to tell my kids they've got to get started on this so that uh, their retirement plan, so that they're not in the position that I'm in, or they have to get serious earlier than I did because the world is changing and the same opportunities and the same tools and the same points of leverage don't exist anymore.
Right.
But this, I think, is showing people a completely different side of financial resilience, because that's what this is. This is being financially resilient, regardless of what happens, regardless of what your needs are. She's got enough in here to leverage to buy a house. She's got enough in here to leverage to buy her own vehicle. She's got enough in here to leverage whatever she wants to do. If she wanted to go on a trip and travel and backpack around Europe, and she wanted to borrow money to be able to do that, she can leverage this because it's life insurance. It's supposed to be used while you're living, not death insurance. So that's where I think we are using our bank accounts, and we're using these traditional systems that feed other people's machines, right? So that they have more life in their years. And we're waiting until we get to some point wherever the bar is, and we're not even the ones setting the bar. We're waiting to that point to really truly live our lives. This gives people their power back. This makes them feel like they're able to make so that all of the work you put in is worth it.
That's it.
It's meaningful.
And again, then you carry that same $100 out till age, because remember the goal was to retire early, right?
Yeah.
Carry that same $100 out to age 50. How about $84,000 tax free?
Change that $100 to $200 just to show the difference, because I think some people might be surprised.
So, and it's just so I'm clear, still from age 1 though, right?
Yep.
Okay, not a problem. Oh, 1,200, sorry. And again, it's just math. So if $100 a month was 84 grand a year, $200 a month would be double that, 168,000.
But the other number there it is, that number.
And right, and they would have put in, hold on, would have put in $117,000 in total, but would have a savings account of about 1.6 million to be able to be leveraged and used however you would like.
Yeah, that's different.
That's huge.
Yeah.
All off putting away $100 a month, or in this case, $200 a month.
And does that include the death benefit?
So this does not. The death benefit is 2 numbers, meaning that $200 a month bought a certain amount of life insurance. It bought $288,000 in life insurance. So that's what was purchased when the first $200 was put in. So if something were to happen at age 20, 25, that death benefit would have looked like that. But the death benefit increases as you add more money, and the death benefit becomes 2 numbers. It's the life insurance that you initially purchased, and it's the cash value that you didn't use. And so the difference, so it's basically additive. I guess I need that. It's these 2 numbers. It's this one plus the growth on this one, which means it ends up being about $2.7 million. And let me scroll up a little bit so you can see a little bit better. It ends up being about $2.7 million in total. And that's after you've been taking this income for life. That's after you've been going on your trips and paying your bills and living your life. If something were to happen to you, but it's being passed on to your beneficiaries, is about 2.7 million. Like, show me the 529 plan that can come close to any of that. Because now what we're talking about is generational wealth. Now what we're talking about is setting up the next 500 years to be able to never have to worry about a 529 plan. Right?
Powerful. Yeah. Well, we're over the hour, so I don't see any questions coming in.
Okay.
But I think that we've gone over quite a bit tonight, and I'm looking forward to next week. So we're going to continue on with the examples, of course, but our goal for moving forward is really to talk about these unconventional strategies so that you are armed with options and alternatives, so that it doesn't seem like all you got to do is go out there and make more money and then put more money in a casino and hope for the best. These alternative strategies do help you to leverage what it is that you have now, understand how to make moves within what you currently have, and then how to grow that and leverage it to make that money make its own money, and the money that money makes its own money. And this is a different way, and we have to continue to share it with people so that we can all learn.
One little story. Take control. Get self-directed.
That you're damn right. So I think we're good. I'll wait just a second here to see if any other comments come in, but I don't see that. So hold on one second, because if you want to learn how to become self-directed, if you are if you're asking yourself, well, how do I got to wait till next week to learn this stuff? You don't. And I'm going to show you exactly how you can start to learn some of this stuff right now. We have a ton of free resources, and I really mean that, prepared for you, that you can go grab right now and get started. You ready to show them how, Donnell?
Let's do it.
All right. We'll see you next week, guys. Hold on one second. Hey, before you go, we want to remind you that becoming fully self-directed means gaining complete control over your wealth, time, and freedom. It's not just an idea. It's a framework, a mindset, and the power to make informed decisions to secure your future. Being here means you're taking those steps, and we want to thank you for allowing us to guide you. We believe that we grow farther and faster when we grow together. So tune in next time and tell a friend to tell a friend. We've helped thousands of people just like you start their journey to financial freedom. And if they can do it, you can too. And if you're ready to learn more, we got you. Get a head start by grabbing these 2 free books. But how do they get them, Donnell?
Head over to my website where you'll have access to a few things. A ton of free resources, case studies, and over 100 5-star reviews from people just like you. And in 15 minutes, we can explore what's possible for you. So don't wait.
Invest in what you want, when you want.
But first, let us help you get
Self-directed.